Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Haynes. I'm an audiobook narrator, and this is part of my series, Talking Accents with some of the world's top audiobook narrators. And I am honored to introduce Joel Frumkin, an Audie-nominated, multi-award-winning narrator with over 500 full-length audiobooks to his credit and over 65,000 five-star reviews on Audible. Classically trained actor with an MFA in theater from USC, has served as the director of drama at Manchester University, as well as a theater professor at Indiana Purdue University. He is a dialect specialist and has taught accents and speech at NYU, Tisch School of the Arts, as well as coached accents for major regional theaters, Broadway stalwarts, and national tours. And he has also created Acting for Audio, a college level acting class focusing on the needs of the audiobook performer. And that course has had over 150 graduates. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you, Matt. I'm so excited to be here. It's a real honor, and I've known of your work for a long time, and I'm a fan. And I think the stuff you put out into the world and the way that you share your knowledge and your process is really inspiring and wonderful, and I applaud it. So it's very fun to get to hang out with you. So thank you so much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, so Joel, what was the earliest time you remember doing voices and accents?
You know, I'm not sure that I have a specific memory of. I remember a day where I was with my parents and my mother said something to my father about, oh, he can do voices. And my father was like, what are you talking about? And my mother was like, do that. And my mother was like, do it. Do. And my mother was like, do Scottish, do Irish. And I was like, oh. And I was like maybe 13, maybe younger than that. And I sort of just did it. And and that's the first time I remember sort of standing and delivering it and knowing it was an actual thing, versus just sort of playing. Do you know what I mean? Um, but I I grew up by virtue of the fact that I grew up in a British Commonwealth versus growing up in a specific locale. So for instance, if you go to school in Liverpool, right, most of your teachers are going to be from that surrounding area. If you go to school in, Wisconsin, most of your teachers are going to be from Wisconsin. By virtue of the fact that I was in a Commonwealth, my teachers were um it was very much a kind of Dickensian. It wasn't a boarding school, it was a day school, but it was the equivalent of kind of a British boarding school. And my teachers were Irish, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, Bolton, Manchester, Lancashire. They were from like all over the British Isles, obviously RP. Um, and from the age of when I was 5 to 16. And so I grew up with not one set of sounds infiltrating my ears.
Mhm.
I grew up with a symphony of dialects that before I even knew what the dialect specifically was or what that region was, I recognized the music. My two best friends growing up, one was from the family was from Manchester, and the other family was from Edinburgh, so or from Glasgow. So it was very bizarre, but really serendipitous for me because my ear just started developing at a
Mhm.
very, very early age.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
It reminds me of the Europeans knowing so many more languages usually
absolutely.
at a time
Absolutely.
than Americans, right? Somebody will
Yeah.
be really impressed that I'm bilingual, but it's like, well, come on, folks. I mean, if I was German, I'd probably speak four languages.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah. Now, I've listened to your work, and it's you can do an entire book with a completely convincing U.S. accent, General American accent, a completely convincing British accent, or BBC British accent, RP. You can do, Scottish. You can do men. You can do women. And when I say that, I mean, folks, when I do a woman, I sound like Matt doing a woman. I certainly don't sound like a python in drag, but I do sound like me doing a woman. Joel can do these voices, and it is seamless hearing what would typically identify as a woman's voice versus a man's voice. Joel, you're sort of like a vocal thneed. If we go to the Lorax, right? Just about anything that's heavy to wear. So sometimes I ask folks like what their superpower is. I think yours is pretty obvious. Do you have something that you consider your Achilles heel or one of your biggest challenges, even if it's outside of accents, just with this craft?
Um, yeah. I hate doing Newcastle. Uh, I hate doing Filipino.
Okay.
Um, I hate doing Portuguese.
Huh.
Those are the three that for me will want to drift to other places, and it's just like I'll have to sit there with the phonetics chart in front of me like this the whole time.
Uh-huh.
Um, and and I appreciate you. What you said was just very kind and makes my heart grow. But when you say seamless, I have to tell you that I I am a little bit of a lunatic. I don't want people to think that, oh, I just sit down in it. I mean, I am a multiple take person. I do not just, I'm not a one take wonder. I'm not one of those people that can do, a finished hour in an hour and a half. That is not me. I record about 7 hours a day and get about two finished hours done. And I I am pedantic. So I appreciate you very much saying that the work, the finished product sounds seamless,
Mhm.
but I don't want anybody to think that I am some sort of um, you know, savant that it doesn't take effort. It certainly does. But yeah, no, those dialects are the ones that really I I hate. Um and I'm trying to think what else. Um, though I feel like those are the honestly, I have learned to turn down books that it's like, seven Navy SEALs all together who just happen to be gay or motorcycle gangs or, I can do like alpha male, like, I can do the Marine or whatever for like a couple characters, but when it's gonna be like seven of these guys in a room, it's not me. It's not what I intend my brand to be. It's not what I enjoy. And
Um,
it's like, it that that's when I feel like I'm faking it. Do you know what I mean?
mhm.
The other, most other characters, I'm like, okay, I'm honoring that character. When I'm doing that stuff, I just feel like I'm an imposter. And you're kind of like
Mhm.
going, don't let them realize that it's actually this gay Kermit trying to do this shit. Um, so I think those are the thing. I've learned to avoid the stuff that I'm allergic to or that I suck at. And I think that's a skill. I think that's a place that when you're able as an actor to know what you're not right for, it's
Right.
almost as important as knowing what you are right for.
Well, what you're talking about also makes me think of if you didn't have particular things that you were less inclined to do, then the things that you were inclined to do wouldn't have as much meaning. It really makes you a human with impulses and drives and passions as opposed to just, an AI with meat.
Yeah.
So I can totally understand how that's a strength. Um, when, golly, how does one, you said you read like the chart and stuff like that. And I've seen that chart, and that chart is, that'll turn my eyes into, a slot machine. What is your starting point? What do you recommend as a starting point when you have students who are figuring this sort of stuff out?
Um, it's the way I will work with students usually is different than the way I will work myself because, when I went to school, we were drilled IPA. I can write IPA as fast as I can write, in normal writing.
And
Um,
sidebar, everybody, IPA is International
oh,
Phonetic.
yeah, sorry.
No, no, it's fine.
Um, and so it's kind of how my brain thinks
Hmm.
when I'm dealing with the dialect. So for me, the first thing that I'm doing is I'm listening and I'm probably notating major sound changes.
Hmm.
But that's not going to get the dialect in my body at all. That's the beginning process. For me, and when I'm working with my students, it's about the music. You've got to figure out the music. You've got to figure out the physicality of it.
Mm.
You've got to figure out what the body, how the sort of body connects to the movement of the dialect, and obviously placement and resonance and all those things. The best thing can that I find as a oh my God, I have to crash course this is if I can find an audiobook narrated by someone authentically from that place and I can put it on and first of all just put it on and let it wash over you. Or stand-up comedians.
Mm.
Stand-up comedians doing a long set are great because you're not going to learn how to you're not going to get the dialect in your body. And there's a difference between I've got to do 20 lines in this dialect and I've got to do pages and pages, and when you've got to do pages and pages, that's when you have to learn to what the whole roller coaster is. You have to know, how do you think in that dialect and how do you feel in that dialect.
Mm. Mm.
You're not just, going, faking it or having somebody, record it for you 3 lines or whatever. You've got to get it in your own DNA, um, and letting the music wash over you like that. And the other thing that I'll do is I'll take the audiobook and I'll put it on a slower speed because then you
Mm.
can hear the sound
Yes,
changes
yes.
and you're stopping hearing speech and you're starting to hear construction of sound and placement. And so that's a really good tool for going, okay, what are they doing on a U sound? What are they doing on an O vowel? You know, that kind of thing. So that's one of the first things that I really think. But and also thinking about geography, like New Yorkers talk the way New Yorkers do because they want to get somewhere.
Mm.
City dialects function differently than rural dialects.
Yeah, yeah.
Mountainous dialects function differently than flat plain dialects. They just do. And so thinking about that kind of thing, and not just what is the external sound, but what makes a region speak like that? What does that emotionally come from? Can be, I think, really useful. So and it's what works for each person. Some people, everybody's brain works differently in what they're going to respond to. Um, but yeah, so I guess
That's
those are my.
and no, I mean, I think that speaks to being a really great teacher as well, because I certainly know that when I'm teaching, it's very tempting for me to try and find a formula that then I can just lean back and just spray over the students and yeah, and that sort of thing. But you're absolutely right. There's no two minds that work the same way. Well, so. Since you grew up in in such a variety of different voices, different regions, the accent, not the accent, yeah, the accent actually, I'll follow through with that sentence that I started. The accent that I often like to climax these videos with is one that is usually near and dear to the person I'm interviewing, maybe sort of where they grew up and where if they hear somebody doing it in a what I would call a presumptive way, tends to be fingernails on a blackboard. So sometimes when I hear deliveries of the Down East Maine accent. That's one of my it's one of my videos. So when I hear deliveries of that, I often make this judgment that the person is just doing a generalized kind of like, oh yes, I know that sound. That's where you do the this and the this, and then it's applied. I'm just sort of like, oh, no, 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 no. But at the same time, of course, I propagate that with my videos. And so I'm just curious how you feel about those sorts of things when somebody's approaching something where the locals will probably be able to call them out on it. And as a local yourself, or as local as you can think, is there one area where one region, someplace in the world where people tend to make a presumption and it's like, okay, for the novice, make sure you don't go here with it.
Yeah. I mean, going specifically to where I grew up. So where I grew up was Bermuda, right? And Bermuda's a British Commonwealth. And the sort of the demographic of it has shifted in, say, the past 20 years. But when I was there, it was either it was sort of the community was very, very British, or the locals, had a Bermudian dialect and have a Bermudian dialect. And the very funny thing about it is it is unlike any other Caribbean dialect whatsoever.
Mm.
And so whenever you see like a movie set in Bermuda or whatever, or if they happen to be there, you're gonna hear like the standard Jamaican kind of cool runnings accent being used. And it is nothing like that. It is the strangest placed weird. I mean, I will try and demonstrate it badly. I really like it's not something I ever would want to have to do properly. Um uh but partially because of racial sensitivity, but
Sure,
it's
sure.
a very tricky thing to do. But for instance, like rather than say uh hey buddy, or um uh, go, hey buddy, go down. It's down the road, right? It's hey buddy, go down the road. No, boy, no, you wrong, man. You don't do that dialect, right, boy? No, what you talking? It is the string. And
Oh my goodness.
that's not even good. That's not even good. But
Uh-huh.
no, it is this word like like weird is word like it is the strangest. If you listen to Bermudian news
Uh-huh.
on like go on YouTube, it will
Yeah.
blow your mind. It is nothing like Jamaican. It is nothing like Barbados, and it is their own weird, strange little pocket of sound. And I don't know anybody who could do it who was not from there. Like, I mean, and even I, like, as I'm doing it, I go, oh, that's not quite right. It's weird. So it's a great question that you asked me because literally I'm a really good example of being from somewhere that no one can get right.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
Well, maybe just to rack up more views of people telling me that I suck. I can, because haters are great for
Ha!
driving up something anyway. Maybe I should just, put a target on my hindquarters and do a Bermuda video just
Oh,
to
you
just
should. It'd be awesome. I'd
yeah.
love it. That'd be so cool. Yeah. No, no, no. But like look up Bermuda news clips.
Uh-huh.
It's or like Bermuda, like when you look up like Bermuda sports teams being interviewed and stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
you'll hear the sound, and it is the wackiest thing. It's
Oh,
so interesting. Um yeah.
well, folks, this has been just a delight for me. I hope it has been for you. I'm Matt Haynes. This is Joel Frumkin. More information about his work and his class will be in the video description. In the meantime, I hope that our voices and your ears will meet again real soon.
Thank you, Matt, very much.